Hey, welcome back to another episode here with Elijah's Bones Production, and I'm your host, Dr. Stephen Whitsett. We have another short snippet here that I promised I would do, and this is the standing challenge. Um, Let me switch over here real quick. Now, I put in here Dr. Sam Frost and I. It's something that we have talked about. I'm not committing Sam to anything by any means or anything else like this. But here's the challenge. The challenge goes forth. Um, but let me clarify, quantify, whatever you want to call it before I do. Right now, um, I've been in discussions a little bit with Steve Hogdahl, Bob Barker. There's just other people. And the one obvious thing is the complete confusion of trying to create anything consistent. What is happening is that they're supposed to be Bereans. They're supposed to study. They're not supposed to look at what other people have said. Forget it, because you stand out and you don't just go with the flow. Just because everybody taught that doesn't mean you are. Well, obviously that goes for what other preterists are taught too. So now there's so much inroad there. But what has happened is that when you approach Revelations or even Genesis and you try to say this is all symbolic language without an understanding of the background of the books, the history of the time of what they were written, why they were written, all those kind of different things, uh, people are automatically applying a spiritual meaning to everything. And that means they're taking a phrase like God formed man from the dust of the ground. Okay, well, that doesn't really mean Adam was made from dust. I mean, that means something completely different, according to Steve Ogdahl. I'm not even touching, I can't even remember the garbage. We'll put it this way. I'm just shutting it off. There's so much stupidity going on. But what it shows is that every preterist reads it and reads something else into it. Some other spiritual application or something that absolutely denies anything that literal, concrete about what the statement is being made. You can talk about it's raining cats and dogs outside, and the concrete behind that is it's raining very, very hard. But they're using symbolic or metaphor figurative language or whatever you want to call it to describe how that rain is happening. And that's what they don't get by destroying the basic essence of the literalness of the passage into something spiritual. They're destroying the literal intent of the author and for why he wrote it the way he wrote it and what he did. Um, so it's kind of just shame. But because there's so many people out there, there's just I'm not issuing debates. I don't do it. I did it the last time I did it, of course, with Steve Baisden, and I've never seen so much uh, stupidity in all my life. And I know that sounds like a harsh word, but you look at somebody and say, okay, the resurrection of the dead in Greek is anastasis nekron, which literally means the standing again of the lifeless body. They interpret that to be the standing again of the dead ones that are in Hades. Um, God forbid that it ever meant physical bodies coming out of the grave. Like when it's an hour is coming when all of those who are in the tombs will hear his voice and come out. Not Hades, it says the tomb. What's in the tombs? The bodies. And it goes on and on and on. So the challenge is this. Now, I've listened to 100 debates, and they try to make things up as they go along. It's bogus. How they invent things right there at the last second and make arguments for things that are just completely idiots. So what Sam and I have talked about, and nobody's going to do it. Nobody's actually going to take us up on this whatsoever. Um, Don Preston, William Bell, Mike Sullivan. Now, Ward Finley, and I think Roy Runyon and Michael Miano are not Churches of Christ. I might be wrong on that. Roy Runyon might be Church of Christ. But some of these guys don't have anything to do with the Church of Christ doctrines and things. And so look at things from a very different perspective and study background, but still, they don't know systematic theology, biblical theology. It just kind of that. Yeah, no, they don't, and you can tell by the answers and the things that they say and stuff. I mean, I put down here. See this the eight rules of hermeneutics, and I wonder should I make that a little bit bigger so um, most all of them don't even know what any of those mean, how to define them, or anything else like this. Um, and so those kind of people, what's the point of debating? You really are like Stuberville. You're completely talking past each other, and because he has no concept of anything, no words and meanings were identified, or any kind of foundational meaning of words that traditionally, in some debates, when I say you go into a debate, it's your turn to talk. You begin your presentation with, I believe that I'm going by this definition. The resurrection of the dead is da 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 da. The great white throne judgment is da 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 da, and things like that. And establish those meaning of words so that when you have that discussion, you're using the same definitions. That I haven't seen too much of that been going on, but it should be done more. But so really, sometimes the best part of some of these debates has not been with them going back and forth with their 5 minutes or whatever else, but most of these debates get more answered in the questions and the answers, and there's usually never time. You get 4 or 5 questions from the super chats and things like this, and some of the other ones are not really dealt with. So I've listed out just some basic 10 questions. I would love to be able to sit down with Don Preston, William Bell, Mike Sullivan, somebody like that, somebody of that caliber, who's got a little bit more credit. Oh, but see, I am dismissed as not having any credit. I'm not worth it to Don Preston to even talk to, because I don't have a congregation. I'm not a pastor at a church. What else goes on there? But then I did qualify in the other ones, education wise, but I don't have this great audience. So only 75 followers. So you're insignificant, Steve. You don't really count. It's not worth doing the debate with you, and that's basically the approach unless they get their arms bent like Bell did and Preston did with Anthony. They claim 2 years we've been working on this sucker, and finally we get to do it. Well, I'm still issuing the challenge to anybody, not anybody, excuse me, take that, to anybody of caliber who's written a book. I've written a book, hey! But to go through these questions, I'll give them to you, either whatever way you want to do it. Go through these questions. You give me 10 questions, I'll give you 10 questions, and we'll sit down and actually discuss these things. Look at the definition of words, answer them, examine them, and that doesn't mean going off to some other book to say, this is what this means. No, let's answer what something means within the context of where it was written, why it was written, the book, the whole 9 yards, and do that. Don Preston's last video on 1 Corinthians 15 and some of what that's a doozy right there. That's the foundation of it is just incredible. I keep going back to that word stupid, and then I'm reminded of the old meme that says Donald Duck. I've got a picture of it. He says, I got to quit saying how stupid can you be, because people are taking it a challenge and being even stupider. So none of that, but again, like I said, I don't think anybody's really going to, nobody of caliber or quality is actually going to do it. And so that's why I suggested I'll do it with Sam. Me and Sam against any two people, Mike Sullivan, Don Preston, William Bell. I know Lance just talked about it with doing it with Sam after that last debate and things. Oh, well, we too will take on Mike Sullivan. But I'm not going to be mean to Lance, but I'll leave it at that. Not exactly the best person to get in those discussions with because, as Anthony pointed out, yeah, it's easy for him to digress into an unholy verbiage. So, these are the questions. These are 10 questions. Did Jesus die a spiritual death to atone for sin or a physical death? Was the new covenant inaugurated in Jesus' blood? What is the redemption of the body? What does that mean in 23? How are we united with him in a resurrection like his? How is our body transformed in Philippians 3:21? 1 Thessalonians 4:1, 16d. The dead in Christ will rise first. What does that mean? How are we who are alive are changed? Does God carry out judgment on the great white throne in absentia, or do we need to be present for the judgment? Do you see Revelation 21 as a return to the garden with the mentioning of the tree of life or not? When did it happen? Has it happened? Do you believe Christ did or will appear at his coming? The emphasis, of course, is appearing. Do you believe that he was to appear? Why do those verses say he will appear, and why do you say not? So that's the background of why I put the other ones in there. So a couple of basic things that we can deal with, of course, is, bigger subjects, physical death versus spiritual death and the death of Adam. And, of course, the old covenant, did it end at the cross or did it end in AD 70? What does it mean by salvation? In Hebrews 9:28, he brings salvation with him. I'll give you a hint. Salvation is a two-part process. First, we are regenerated in the spirit, and then our bodies in the resurrection are made brand new and restored to what it was. Because, see, God made man to live on this earth to enjoy his creation with all the sights, sounds, smells, taste, all of those things were made for our enjoyment. And so he made this beautiful body for us to enjoy all those things. So the redemption of the body, the transformation of the body from the perishable to imperishable, from mortal to immortal, is the glorification of that body that will happen when he comes. So again, the full, complete salvation is body and soul. Not just the soul and spirit, but also the body. Don't tell anybody that. All right. We can discuss the 8 rules, of course, of hermeneutics. Then some of the things I put down here for kind of to dig in. What does full preterism teach? Let's just, the Olivet Discourse and Revelations were all filled in AD 70. You agree or don't agree? They deny the visible body return of Christ. They deny the physical bodily resurrection of the saints, which is true. Jesus had to die a spiritual death on the cross to atone for sins. Some believe he had to be born again in Hades in order to resurrect on the 3rd day. Some people believe that he suffered in hell and all of that stuff. Straight out of the handbook of the prosperity gospel teachers. Adam was threatened with spiritual death in the garden for eating of the tree, not physical death. The last enemy is spiritual death, but physical death is good, according to John Watson, since death ruled and reigned in the garden. Genesis 1:3, tell the metaphorical story of the first covenant man, not the little creation of the world. The millennium took place in AD 33 into 70. That's what that debate just got finished up right. No one was saved until 70 AD. We talked about that. Salvation is talked about in the New Testament proleptically. So Paul and the other writers really mean they weren't really saved, but they were saved because they had to wait until 70 AD to be saved. Jesus exists in spirit and body. His flesh and bone body got burnt up or something else, or was offered a second time, or died again, which is wrong according to Romans 6:9. The new birth is no longer regeneration, it's spiritual resurrection. The living saints were still stuck in the old covenant, Judaism, were resurrected out of that old system in AD 70. The idea of what resurrection is it's so convoluted. The law of Moses remained valid in AD 70. Every person was judged in AD 70, therefore has been determined where everyone goes. No one has to stand before God anymore. Time never comes to an end. Sin, death is never actually defeated, literally, only spiritually. So that sin, death, sickness, and all that will continue on. Hades was destroyed in AD 70, but death continues and was metaphorically thrown into the lake of fire, but yet people still die. How does something get thrown in there and yet people still die? Even Christians. Only the Holy Spirit can reveal the truth of full preterists to people, and those who reject it are in darkness, as I've been told many times. The new heaven and earth here is the church. Currently lives in the reality of the New Jerusalem. So, those are some of the things that we know they offer up to us. But in my challenge, though, and people can look at this, they use the wrong definition for the following words: mellow, epiphania, parousia, tachy or tachus, or tachos. There's three different words there. Somaticos, bodily. Those are two different words. One means bodily and it's used only one time, and another one it is. And that's one time it's used is in Colossians 2:9. Yeah, 2:9. Egizo, and people should know what those words mean without me having to tell you. Doxa, glory, what does that really mean? Pneumaticos, ingus. Yeah, I think that was the only attack. Okay, yeah, those are the main ones. The second coming, they demand an invisible coming. So why is it not one shred of historical testimony exists for that? That's what's interesting. So there is no promise of second coming in the Olivet. Parousia has two meanings. Paul used epiphany to describe the nature of the coming. So the timing does not dictate the nature of his coming. He comes without signs like a thief. He comes to kill the beast and the false prophet. He comes with a saint. He comes to rule over the nations with the saint. And of course, I'm talking from a historical premillennium. How in the world can Revelations 20 be a recap or recapitulation when it's calling Jerusalem the camp of the saints, when the saints all fled in AD 70? It can't be called the camp or the city loves, since it was supposed to be Babylon. How can he call it Babylon one chapter and the next minute he calls it the city he loves? If that's supposed to be recap, it just doesn't work. His coming is to be an appearing of himself. He cannot die again. He never returned to spirit form. Return to the glory he had with his Father had nothing to do with his nature of being invisible or of a spirit form. Those are all things that we would want to talk about. Resurrection of the dead, the millennial reign, the great white throne judgment, new heavens and earth, and things in these videos that I'm working on. I'll cover a lot of this stuff and on and so forth. So the idea, people, is who's going to take me up on this? Who's going to take up me and Sam? Just sit down, the two of us, and have a discussion. And just really, really just do question and answer things back and forth and examine a text like real Bereans instead of dancing around the issues and the subjects, and follow the rules of hermeneutics in our interpretation. I know that full preterists give lip service to that, but they don't actually do it. So, make a long story short, this is the challenge that we're putting out to anybody of substance. And it's kind of funny. I can't think of anybody else. All full preterist has for real. Okay, well, Larry Siegle, yeah, I could put his name in there. But who are the leaders? Ed Stevens? Nah, because you have too many differences. With him, but and he's been sick. He is a great guy. He just, his Holy Spirit and everything else. I really do have a lot of respect for Ed and Larry. I really do. I think their personalities are just great, and as people and things, I just hope that I could convince them otherwise at some point before they go. But leadership-wise, these are the only 5 men that I know that are real leaders in the preterist movement. No, Ward Finley is not a leader. Michael Miano is not a leader. They're kind of close. Roy Runyon. Oh yeah, Roy Runyon. He would never do anything with me. You could asked that from now until time eternity, but he would never do it. Um, and he blocked me, so I don't get to see anything. And even though had to change my Facebook, I still got Preston Bell and some of these other ones, but definitely not friends with Runyon. I can't think of anybody else John Watson, not worth doing the debate with. Uh, yeah. Okay, so that was the other two. Yeah, I'm thinking I'm going through there. You've got uh, what's his name? Neubauer. I can't remember his name all of a sudden. Neubauer and Mister. I get myself into trouble so often now. I'm picturing his face and I can't get the name. It's a little like Steve Baisden. That's it. We've got those two. I know I've got. Let me pull something up here, real quick, because I've used. Let me bring this over. I've done this. Let's see. Pictures, camera, paper, people. Steve Baisden. I got some funny memes in here. Me. Yeah, he won't get. There's Sam. Yeah, so I'm not. Yeah, I'm not. Holger Neubauer. That was it. Shoot. Let's see. Holger. Those are the ones. But am I talking about actually doing these are partial preterists, so that's why I in so many ways I won't deal with them. Like Gary DeMar, Steve Gregg, yeah, partial, and Ward Fenley, Daniel Rogers, yeah, I don't think he would do it though. Even in a discussion, he'll sit there with two men in a Bible, but he won't actually engage in a debate or discussion. And so I don't want to do a debate. That's the whole point. I don't want to debate. I want to do a discussion. So I could put on here Daniel Rogers. See, now the interesting thing is that Daniel Rogers has been going to Amherst University, and that is the school I just finished up with. Let me move this over here. With Amherst University, where I've completed. And I think he's working on his master's over there, is what he's doing. But Gary D. Marr, Gentry. Kenneth Gentry, that's right. I got Kenneth Gentry Jr. Let's see, who else did I think of? Oh yeah, Steve Gregg. I don't think he would do it either. But for the discussion, I would love it. Gary DeMar, Joel McDermott. But again, these are all partial. So the real issue is not against them, even though that would be an interesting point. But why muddy the waters with three different people? Daniel Rogers, Steve Baisden. I can't think of anybody else really. I mean, I know that you've had John Watson. Maybe if he was with somebody else, not a sidekick. Roy. I think that's about it. I really do. I think that's about all it is. So, you can do Don Preston and Daniel Rogers, William Bell and John Watson, or Holger. Just not Holger and Steve together, or Steve and Daniel together, or John and Steve together. Give me somebody of substance there. Because, it's interesting. when you watch Mike Sullivan and Don Preston, those two, Don Preston's doing much of the talking. He really is. So, oh, I didn't click back. I know that, but yeah, those are the names. Those are the names that I would look at and say, hey, let's just sit down and have a discussion. You can have anybody you want to mediate between somebody who's good, Brian Simmons or whoever, but have the questions debate. You give me 10, I'll give you 10, and we'll go from there. And, respond back. Who wants to really see this? Who wants to really see this happening? Let us know. Talk to us, and we'll go from there. All right, thanks, guys.